always, welcome to this week's edition of BC Wine Weekly. We're really excited to have Connor Galway with us. Obviously, going to be sharing some specific digital marketing strategy for wineries. For those just who aren't aware, it's presented by myself, Christopher Mark. I have soil surveying, EC surveying, etc., business for vineyards, and Anthony Rosato, who works with small businesses on things like group benefits, insurance, etc. So just a quick note on the next 2 weeks. I know a lot of you have seen this, but next week we're going to have Paul Rickett, who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, talking about kind of retail relationship management, working with retailers, things wineries can do to supercharge that relationship. It'll be important because, even more important, especially with some of the new wholesale rules coming in. And then after that, we have Charlie Grinnell on June 18th, and he's going to be sharing some really cool behind the scenes data you can't get otherwise on what other wineries are doing in terms of social media spend, what's working in terms of creative, what kind of hits they're getting. It's a real, really cool behind the scenes look. So that should be fun as well. And then just a quick note on our agenda. Obviously, we're going to have Connor presenting. We'll have a little bit of time, as always, at end for the Q&A. And Connor has said he's totally comfortable. If any of you want to jump in with questions, as always, you can also just throw it in the chat or message Anthony and I directly. We'll make sure your question gets asked. And then the thing we're going to do at the end is we're going to just leave 5 minutes at the end, and we'll probably just go over by an additional 5 minutes to have just 10-minute discussion on opening. So just a chance for anyone who wants to stick around at the very end. We can just share a little bit about what's working in terms of opening, questions, etc. So maybe just have kind of a little bit of a group discussion around how opening's been going. So with that, just for those of you who aren't familiar with Connor, he's the founder and president Junction Consulting, and what they really focus on is equipping brands. Let's see if I can expand. No,
big bio.
Yeah, well, and my screen is cutting it off for some reason, and hopefully you guys can see that. But really working on brand strategy, and that's really his focus, is kind of researching and analyzing what's happening, taking big picture. And what they do is they come in and help companies who are kind of looking to take that, take that overview approach. How do you hire a marketing team? How do you establish a marketing plan? And how do you find the right people to execute? And that's what they focus on. He has a really important email that gets shared quite widely, is quite well respected in the industry, called The Brief, and you can get that at his website. And he, obviously, as you can see, he does a lot of other stuff in terms of, as we were talking about at the beginning, working with Destination BC, does lots of other speaking, and engagement is obviously, quite requested as a speaker. So we're really excited to have him join us today. So with that, Connor, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I can share that wine is both a personal and professional hobby of mine. It's one of my favorite spaces to work in, and I just you meet such interesting people. So I actually kind of wish that this was one of those in real life sessions, but hopefully sometime soon. I see some familiar faces, or names anyways. So Hugh, Leanne, good to see you. Yeah, I'll provide a little bit of context about what we're going to be talking about today. But before I do that, I just want to sort of acknowledge the time and space that we're in right now. So, obviously over the last several months, all of our businesses have been impacted, this industry in particular. And so it's been a challenging time for all of us, but, over the last couple of weeks, an even bigger conversation has been coming up. And it's sort of been sparked by the events down in the States, and it's become relevant to Canada as well. So the reason I want to bring that up right now is, one, to just acknowledge what's happening in terms of sort of the anti-racism movement and the Black rights movement here in Canada, but also that we need to consider what we're doing in the context of what's happening in the world. Because and I want to make sure that a lot of what I'm saying today needs to be considered, because we're not just going to run out and do all of these things without really thinking about the news feed that we're appearing into and the conversations that are happening. So I just wanted to acknowledge that up front and know that I am conscious of that. And the other side of it is, of course, we have businesses to run. And so how do we make business decisions? How do we be entrepreneurial and creative in that space and coming up and out of it? So, I'm going to do my best. This is not an easy time for anybody, but I'm going to do my best based on what we found and the data that we're seeing to give everybody some thought starters and maybe some creative inspiration for what we can all be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and it should say wine marketing in 2020 on your screen. I have the chat up. If anybody would like to interject or ask questions, by all means, please chat. This is meant to be a conversation rather than just me throwing a bunch of ideas at you. So, I would be happy to stop and dig in or answer any questions at any point. So for wine marketing in 2020, what I'm going to be talking about is these three things, because it's really easy to, give the standard talk, right? Like, hey, let's create social media content. Let's use targeted advertising. But, 2020 is a much different time. So what I'm going to talk about is these three things. Let's have a real talk conversation about where we are as an industry. Let's talk about, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot and working with our clients a lot on, is something called burning needs. How do we identify those things that are immediately important and immediately impactful? And then finally, let's talk about conversions in e-commerce. Just again, social storytelling is great. Working with influencers or whatever it is that we're doing, Instagram stories is awesome, but how do we actually drive conversions right now? And so I'll talk about some ideas there. But obviously Christopher did a great job of introing me. I'll just offer my 2 cents. So Junction is, yes, it's a consultancy. We believe in something called digital from the inside out. And so it's interesting is sometimes people can be like, how are you a consulting company, but you don't actually execute social media or digital marketing for your clients? It's that the need that we identified about 5 years ago was that, organizations were sort of outsourcing everything, and there were great agencies and really smart PR people. But the problem was that these companies, whether they were big or small or medium, ended up in a place where they had a variety of different people out there telling their story for them, and they didn't have a clear strategy from the inside, meaning that there could be this disjointed story being told around it. And as a user, I experienced this where some of my favorite brands, I would tweet at them and get a response, and I'd go to their website and I'd get a different response, and they'd show up in their retail location and have a third response, and none of them seem to be talking to each other. So for us, digital from the inside out is this idea of creating a really strong foundation of, what is the business opportunity? Why are we embracing digital in the first place? And how can we do that? And then, do we need to hire? Do we need to outsource? All of those things can spring from that really strong understanding. So that manifests as strategy, of course. We do a lot of training, and then we do consulting where we just get brought in to solve a problem or an opportunity that comes up. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk to you today, because normally I get to work with one business at a time and approach one opportunity at a time, hopefully, inspiring some action. In conversations like this, it can be 5 or 10 or 50 businesses at a time. So let's talk about where we are. And again, yes, we are sort of at a standstill. We're starting to, there are some signs of life. We're starting to, open up just a little bit. The door is creaking open. But in terms of tourism, I want to give some real information, some actual numbers that we're looking at. So we're moving from local to BC wide. Of course, we're not technically in what Destination BC is calling phase 3 yet. We're still in Explore BC local. But we're starting to see, if you see these Google Trends numbers, we're starting to see a significantly increased amount of interest in things like camping and outdoors. If we look at that red line is still the word vacation, meaning things like hotels, full week vacations, that sort of thing is still lagging behind. But we're seeing signs of life. So campsites are fully booked. I'm sure that we all saw on the internet, who didn't, when Parks BC opened up the floodgate of campsite booking, that for better or for worse, there were a lot of people on the website. Restaurants are starting to open up again, at least here in Vancouver. So I'm coming to you high above downtown Vancouver, and I'm looking out my window and I can see a few patios that have people sitting there, enjoying a glass of wine. And so we're starting to see signs of life. And so the prediction coming from people like me, but also people who are really in the data, either that vacations and these experiences, like going to a tasting room, I'm touring a winery, these are the things that are going to be in the next phase, whether that's 1 week or 3 weeks from now. So we're sort of at that best possible time to be thinking about this stuff, because we're right in, and so if we look at this graph that's been put out by Destination BC, we're kind of right in between that phase 2 and phase 3. And interestingly, if we look at the timing that they predicted, pretty close to being right on. They predicted that parks would open mid-May. It happened. We predicted that we'd be moving from phase 2 to phase 3 around the start of June. we'll probably miss it by a week or two, but it's pretty close. And so it would be reasonable to think that, that if we're looking forward, sort of that September timeline, maybe October, assuming we don't have a second wave, knock on wood, would be what we would be looking for Canada-wide. So that's where we are right now in terms of tourism. Here's where we are in terms of digital. And when I say digital, I mean people using the internet, using social media, using apps. And I actually think it's been a really fascinating time, just as it relates to the way that people have been using digital. So one of the things is that people have been adopting these new technologies. So like people who had never, and I'm thinking about, my 65-year-old dad and aunts and uncles and grandparents who never really thought of themselves as being like digital or social media people. They've been forced to learn how to use Zoom or Google Hangouts. They've been forced to learn how to use their FaceTime and sometimes even using Instagram stories to keep up with what their family is doing. I think it's fascinating that there's this whole segment of the population who either would have been, call themselves very passive or barely ever or never social media users who are now being introduced to digital content for the first time. I think that's a huge opportunity for us. And I don't mean like next year or 2 years from now, right now. Because these people now they have apps on their phones. They're like, all right, so like, what do we do? Like, I figured out this internet thing is kind of cool. What do I follow now? What do I watch? And I think about it in terms of user adoption. Every time a new channel comes out, whether it originally is Facebook and then Instagram and then Snapchat or TikTok, every time a new channel comes out, there's a rush of blog posts and links because everyone's saying like, who do I follow in this channel? So the brands who jump on early pick up tons of followers and engagement because people just want to find out who to follow. Well, that's happening right now in that like late adopter demographic. These people who would have been sort of laggards. They're like, okay, so my grandkids, my family, my kids gave me 20 or 50 accounts to follow, but now I want stuff that I'm interested in, and they're looking around. I think there's a real opportunity for us to be showing up because like we're talking about wine. Everyone loves to hear and see content about wine. So I think there's a real opportunity there. That's one. Two, this is how the sort of user adoption of content has been. And I won't spend the whole time in data, I promise, but this is what I think is a really interesting and relevant piece of data for us, is that if we look at the number of people who have been using apps or who've been using their phones through the pandemic, it's been pretty flat. And you might be like, that's weird. Like people are sitting at home, they're consuming more content, they're just spending time. It feels like we're all consuming content all day long. Well, it's not that it's gone down. It's been pretty flat in terms of mobile social usage. Where that spike has come from is desktop. So we're using our laptops, we're using our computers a lot more, sometimes as much as say 15 or 25% more, which means that we're consuming longer content. Longer videos are doing really well. Longer blog posts, even podcasts are doing really well because we have a little bit more time where we're watching things on our laptops and computers. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to continue, of course, but certainly over the next weeks, months, we're going to see that similar user behavior. So longer videos, longer content does really well. And right now, there really isn't an expectation of everything being perfectly polished. And so like, if we do want to create a 30-minute webinar, for example, or a 5-minute video, and I'll show you an example of one brand that's doing a really good job of that. If we do want to do that, now's the time, because people are super forgiving. They're like, oh, they're hustling, they're trying things out. So it's a really interesting time for digital content. But let's move out of the data and actually move into some real actionable things, some things that we can all be doing. Because you'll notice that this conversation, or sort of the way that I'm approaching this, is going to be quite a bit different than what you might normally assume would be like a social media or digital marketing talk. Because like I frankly don't care if we're getting a bunch more followers, right? Like it's massively uninteresting to me right now how many retweets our tweets are getting. It's what is important is like, are we doing the things that are entrepreneurially going to be keeping us in business and moving our business forward? So the business first, brand second. And I say that in that like brand is still very important, of course. Spent the last 10 years of my life trying to convince people to invest in brand, because brand is what will allow us to continue to grow. Brand is an asset that will keep people coming back. It's all about loyalty and customer service. But if we don't have a business to come back to, then the brand doesn't matter. So it's second, in that it's the second most important thing, but business first. So let's talk about the actual things that the business can do. And I love now as an opportunity for creativity. There's been so many cool things that have come up, whether it's, virtual wine chats, or it's the way that we're creating content, or like these experiences that people are starting to create. One micro example is that I've loved was Man Farms in Abbotsford. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but they have a little tasting room. They sell their own wine, and they have goats where they sell goat cheese. And they're like, what can we do? We're hooped. We can't have anybody on our property, which is where we make all of our revenue. So what did they do? They knew that everybody was spending all day on Zoom. So they sold a 10-minute virtual baby goat chat. So for just $85, which might sound like a lot of money, you could have a 10-minute baby goat on your Zoom call. Now, to an individual, that sounds like a lot of money. To a business who's trying to keep their staff engaged and trying to add a little bit of fun, it's the drop in the bucket. So we bought one, and it was amazing. Everybody on my team said it was the best meeting we've ever had. I didn't take that personally, but it's such a great time for creativity and for entrepreneurship, and to identify these markets and these ways that we can be creative. And so the first thing I want to start with is, it sounds very businessy, and it kind of sounds like going to the dentist, but I would encourage everybody to start, like, the first thing you do as it relates to your digital marketing, or just being creative or entrepreneurial, is this: a digital opportunity audit. And what I mean by this is, inevitably every one of us has made some sort of investment in digital, whether it's putting up a website, starting an Instagram account, having a YouTube account, and there are opportunities in there. And I'll go through what I think those opportunities are, but there are like immediate, like today opportunities, whether that means, a drop off, and we'll talk about drop offs, but whether that means like people are coming to your site and they want to order, they want to become a member of your wine club, they want to visit your tasting room, but like there's something holding them back. Or we have this audience that's sitting there ready and waiting, but we're just not taking advantage of that. So the first thing we want to do is identify these opportunities, these things that don't require big film sets or don't require media budgets. They're sitting there and waiting for us. And so I'm going to take you through that. And then we'll get into some more creative opportunities. So we're going to do three things. First, we're going to take inventory of the channels that already exist. Second, we're going to look at the opportunities that exist in them. And then third, it's thinking about partnerships and communities that want to support us. Because, and this is what I think about a lot, even in sort of non-crisis, non-COVID times, is that there are people out there who mutually benefit from our success, right? There are suppliers, there are distributors, there are people who sell us things, people who are just down the street, who, like, when people visit us, they also visit them. So it's like, how do we find all of these partnerships and communities that want to support us? Because our DMO, for example, they're just a phone call away, and they would probably post about us if we had something interesting to say. So the audit starts here. So the first place we'll look is all of the social places. So what I would encourage everybody to do is, and for a lot of these, you might go through it and be like, nope, no opportunities there. Totally fine. But let's start with this. Is when we look through these social channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, look at each one of them and say, are we giving people an opportunity to do the thing that we want them to do? So for years, we've been told, tell a story, don't be too promotional, create good content. And all those things are true, but are we making it possible or even easy for all of those people who've been consuming all that content to become the type of customers that we want them to become? So are we, like, is there a clear link to buy something on our website? Are we giving them information about our tasting room opening and when it's opening? So are we being explicit? Because these people who follow us, they understand that we're a business. They understand that we're trying to get back into business. And so they want to support us. So let's take off the sort of like hug the world coat and start like putting messages out there that make it really, really easy. Now, remember, what I'm not saying is just put flyers out all day long and spam people. What I am saying is consider the fact that you have an audience who loves you and loves what you do, and how do you make it really, really easy for them to understand how they can support you. And then, speaking of making it easy, Google My Business and TripAdvisor. So in each of those places, there's opportunity to update what we're doing. And I hope, and I think it's probably the case, that most of the people on this call have already done this, but I'll be redundant here for a second and say, go to your Google My Business, go to your TripAdvisor. Make sure that the hours are updated, but also make sure that there's something on there that acknowledges that things are different right now. Because what you'll find is that if people go to your TripAdvisor, go to your Google My Business, or even go to the contact page on your website, and it seems like nothing's changed, it seems like business as usual, people will sniff that out. And they'll go, they probably just haven't updated this. For all I know, they're closed, or for all I know, that I can't do any business with them for whatever reason. So make sure that we're saying, you know, hours might be affected by the pandemic, or like these are our updated hours, or, you know, here's the measures that we're using to make sure that our staff and our visitors are safe. So give some sort of, you know, acknowledgement, and by doing that, you'll let people know that this is up to date and this is relevant. And then finally, social advertising. And so here's sort of an updated today message for social advertising. Cut it off. If it's today, we almost definitely, in almost every case, should not be social advertising. But in general, if we're running social ads, you know, when we feel comfortable to be having these conversations, what are the opportunities with our social ads? Are we just running ads right now on Instagram or Facebook that just promote our content and get the message out? Or are we making it really easy for the people who see our ads to do the thing that we want them to do? So what are the opportunities in our social ads? And finally, in social advertising, I would say, let's assume that we're buying ads in 2 channels or 3 channels, or let's assume we have 4 different ads running. Now is the time to take a razor to those and be like, this one is not delivering, this one is, let's put all of our budget into that. Let's be entrepreneurial and let's make business decisions and put the resources that we are spending in the places that's bearing fruit. And then, you know, thinking less social, it's like, what about our website? You know, looking for these big opportunities, looking for the things that we can do today. First, if we're trying to get people to shop online or book a reservation, book something online, look in your Google Analytics. If you have it set up, please tell me you have it set up. Look in your Google Analytics and see which pages have the highest exit rates. Or just go through it as a user, or have your aunt or uncle, have somebody who's not like as familiar with the site, who might not be super tech savvy, have them try to book and identify those pain points. You know, where are you losing people? Because everything else that you're doing, all your social, all your advertising, your PR, everything else that you're doing is just trying to get people through that funnel. And if you have a leak in that funnel, patching that up is the best thing you can do right now before you do anything else. So the online engine of the shop is one of the first places you should be looking. Search. So what is it that people are searching? So first is, are they searching for your name? You know, if they're searching for your name, are you showing up? Are you showing up with the right information? If they're searching for where to taste wine in X or where to buy Y, you know, are you making sure that you're showing up for that? So obviously search is a long game. It's challenging to affect it tomorrow, but maybe you can buy a few dollars of Google ads, or maybe you can make the changes right now that are going to affect search over the next weeks or months. Are you writing a blog? And so here's some of the things, especially as it relates to, say, blog and influencers, search engine advertising, where we get to be really razor focused, which is, if we're spending time writing blog posts, which I'm a huge advocate for. I love reading blog posts. I love writing blog posts. Great for search, great for social. If we're investing our time and resources in it, is that the absolute best use of our time? So as we go in through this audit, and we're starting to come up with our burning needs, is there something that we're not doing because we're spending our time doing something that, you know, maybe is beneficial in the long run? So a blog is a good place to look. You know, are we working with, we're probably not hosting influencers right now. Are we paying for them? Do we have a long-term relationship with somebody? So all of these things are meant to build sort of an inventory to say, here's the resources that we're spending right now. Where's the best place that we could be spending it? And I can almost promise you that everybody on this call has an opportunity in email marketing. And you know, if you know me, you know that this is kind of my thing. Like I'm always advocating for email marketing, but email is like, it's just such a direct one-to-one way of communicating. We can put links directly into something. We're showing up in people's inboxes. When we have an email marketing list, we have a permission-based opportunity to communicate with people. Whether it's, you know, whether you have a list from 2 years ago of people who have opted in, that's 50 people, or you have a list of 5,000 people, I can pretty much promise you, even if you are using it, there's something that you can be doing right now to take better advantage of it. So how do you do all of the things we were just talking about? Give people an opportunity to do business with you. Make it easy for them to support you. How do we put that in front of people in a really powerful way? Because, and I'll speak from experience, when I work with a client, typically one of the first things that I do is I'll, you know, walk them down the email marketing route, and almost every time they go, oh my goodness, that actually worked. And now all of a sudden they trust me. Now all of a sudden they're like, wow, the internet can actually send us some business. So look at your email marketing and say, is there a list that you're not taking advantage of? If you are, is there a way that you can spruce up your subject lines? Can you create a special email? Can you create some interesting content? that's going to get that immediate pop, because email marketing almost definitely has an immediate ROI. And then display advertising and search engine advertising, I would say in most cases, those are opportunities to draw resources away from right now. I don't hate this, well, hate is a strong word. I don't like display advertising most of the time. It has a place. And search engine advertising definitely has a place, but the question is it paying off for you right now? And is it something that's important right now? Or are there better places that we can be spending those resources? Okay, so what we're trying to do in all of that whole conversation, that whole audit that I'm asking you to do, is come up with this, is what are your burning needs? And what we're gonna come up with this list of things that we can do like today or like by next week. It's, are we spending any resources with no connection to objectives? Meaning, like, do we have business objectives that we're focused on, but we're doing this over here and like, it's not clear. And maybe I'm doing this because I watched a webinar one time and somebody told me it's a good idea, or I hired a person who thinks that it's a great idea that we do this. So now is the time to stop just trying things and start doing things that are directly related to our objectives. So looking to cut those things off, looking to cut off underperforming channels and invest in untapped audiences and invest in places where we're having that purchase drop off. So our burning needs are going to be related to one of these four things, and they're going to be things that we can do right now. Now, I can't tell you what those things are going to be for you, but I can tell you it's going to relate to one of those buckets that we just talked about. And then the next phase that we think about, once we've sort of tapped into and identified those burning needs, the next place is to find ways to add value. So what I mean by that is, so we're trying to get people to buy stuff, right? Either to visit us, we're trying to get people to buy things off of our website or become a member of our wine club. And the way that we do that is by telling them the way that we make our wine is better, the way that we bottle our wine is better, or like our experience is better, our price is better. And that's tough, in e-commerce. And so what some people are doing, and I highly encourage it, is to find ways to add value. So I'm going to show you this, and some of the people on this call might have seen this already, but it's one of my personal favorites. It's Stable House Bistro. They're here in Vancouver on Main Street. They sell wine. Of course, they're probably a distributor, a customer of some of the people on the call. And what I thought was really clever was, and you'll see in just a moment, they were like, well, why would people buy effectively a gift card to have wine in the future from us, other than just our friends and our family? They said, how do we add value? Well, let's make stupid videos. And so what they identified is they had this sommelier who is good on camera. He's funny, and they had a little bit of extra time. So what they do is every single time somebody goes onto their website and buys a gift card, they get one of these. Let's see if it plays. This is the fun of live webinars. They get one of these, which is a video directly from their sommelier. Let's see if he wants to talk to us. All right, while he's loading, I'll suggest that there's lots of different ways that we can add value, whether it's like humorous, whether it's crossovers with other brands, whether it's just like simple thank yous and cards and follow-ups that we have with people. So a value add is about, a lot of times it's tempting for us to think, there we go. Lots of times it's tempting for us to think the best way to make a sale is to offer a discount. And I'm suggesting it's not actually a discount. It's actually taking that purchase that they're going to make, whether it's $20 or $50 or $100, and making it more valuable. So what I'll do is, since we're not going to get to hang out with Stable House today, I will offer a link at the end of this presentation. Transition for me at all. It's fully frozen. So a couple of other things we want to do as it relates to conversions in e-commerce. So yes, we want to think about how we can add value, and that's kind of fun. Oh, there we go. That's super fun. We want to think about how we can add value, but it's also like, how can we add value in terms of crossover? So I love this example. This is from Niche Winery. So the winemakers are friends, and I think they do a great job. They're just a small little winery, and what they do all the time is they have this wine club that they send out, and there's always little crossover opportunities or add-ons. So they partner with local businesses, other artisans who are making, whether it's sometimes it's soap and sometimes it's chocolate or whatever that happens to be. And so obviously, one, it's great for the people who are buying. You get to know that you're not just getting wine, you're also getting this add-on thing. It's a crossover promotional opportunity with this other brand. They might have a social audience. They might have an email list that we can tap into. And then we can show people what they're supporting and why it's important. So add-on opportunities in e-commerce are huge. And finally, and this is the last thing that I'll sort of suggest before we wrap up is that there's an opportunity for us to curate local experiences. And this is where we go beyond just the straight, come to our website and buy stuff. It's like, let people know, the other things that are around us. And this is where we get back into the community side of things, back into the storytelling, because when we support local businesses around us, one, we give people a reason to come if they are going to come visit, other things to do. Two, we create a collaborative environment with these partners. And three, we just start to rebuild up our brand and welcome people back into the fold. So I think that the easiest way that we can do that and start storytelling again is to curate local experiences. So I'll leave you with these 5 things and open it up for questions. One, make sure that your Google My Business is updated. And again, I trust and I hope that a lot of people have done that, and your TripAdvisor account, but like, I can't stress that enough. That's probably the lowest hanging fruit. Make sure that if you identify a channel as being something that you want to use and invest in, make sure you're providing regular real-time updates. Let people know that you're open, and let people know how they can support you, either through a purchase, through a visit, or however you want them to do it. Make sure you're answering comments and questions. Like, I've seen an unfortunate number of accounts where people are like, oh, this is a great photo, are you open? And radio silence. So make sure that we're answering questions on TripAdvisor, Google My Business, Instagram, wherever it is that we're showing up. And then finally, as it relates to reopening, as it relates to COVID-19 or any of these other things, that we don't have to be the experts all the time. And so sometimes people are held back by this, being like, I don't want to answer people's questions because what if I say the wrong thing? Make sure you're allowed to refer to experts. So Destination BC has a lot of resources, and there's a lot of other great published content out there. We can link people, we can quote things. So don't be afraid to answer people's questions and put content out there, because there are great expert resources. Final thing that I want to mention that I can't not mention, because this is my favorite thing, is the email that Christopher mentioned off the top. We send an email every Monday. I work really hard on it. I love when people sign up, and the intention is just to keep everybody up to date, let them know what's happening in digital, why it does or doesn't matter, and what they should be paying attention to. And you can sign up at brief.wearejunction.com or really anywhere on our site. With that, I'll open it up. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. And thank you for your patience. Anything anybody would like to know, I'm here for you.
With a quick question. You mentioned kind of not being in love with a lot of paid advertising other than search engine advertising. Could you kind of walk through why?
So for the right brand at the right time, I'm completely in love. I think Facebook and Instagram ads are maybe the most effective use of ad budget in general. But sorry, excuse me. What I worry about is that a lot of small and medium businesses right now have just been kind of throwing money at social ads for the last few years. When things are pretty good, we can spend a few $100s a month and not really worry about it. And I worry about it now that we need to be really laser focused on our objectives, that that's one of the easiest places we can go to and say, are we actually delivering on our objective? So it's not so much that I don't like the format. I love the format. Instagram ads are one of the best ways to advertise in general, but I think it's more asking ourselves, is this actually delivering on the things that we want it to be delivering on?
I think one question that came in is around, everyone's cash strapped right now, right? Or a lot, most people are cash strapped. What can wineries be doing that is kind of, actionable, free and low cost, or free or low cost right now?
Yeah. So I think that in my personal experience and working with wineries, that they do a really good job of creating content and telling their story in sort of an abstract way. And I think that we can do a better job of, and to use an industry term, would be stakeholder engagement. And I'll give a specific example of what that looks like. It would be coming up with the thing that I mentioned this a couple of times. What is the thing that we want people to do? Buy a gift card, come and visit, book something, or just buy a bottle of wine. And then coming up with some social assets or key messages, and then figuring out who our stakeholders are. Are they the people who've been working here for a long time? Are they our most loyal customers? Are they our partners and distributors? And getting those assets in those people's hands and saying, tell everybody, post on your Instagram, send this email out to your friends and family, print it out and put it up in the break room if you need to. And I think that this is sort of where I'm talking about being entrepreneurial, is that you're not going to see that stuff in sort of a Gary Vaynerchuk blog post or a video. I think that's going to be the kind of thing where we sit down and we go how do we hustle? How do How do we think about the audiences that we can sell to, and who can make our advocates? And so it's, I think that to sort of summarize, it's who are the people who already know and love us, and how do we leverage those opportunities to get the word out? Hugh asked the question, is now the time, hi Hugh, is now the time to focus on our existing audiences or to expand our audiences? And I think it's, you know, my take on that is pretty definitive, is that it's our existing audiences by far. Like, it's now is a really, really tough time to be introducing ourselves to new people. Because if you think about it, you know, buyers or users or even travelers, you know, they can't wait to be able to get back to try the things that they've been missing. And so like there's probably a lot of people who can't wait to try, you know, the wines and the experiences for everybody on this call. But then to introduce something brand new to them, that's a leap. You know, that's saying like, oh yeah, all those things you've been missing, you should not experience those things. You should try something brand new instead. And like I mentioned in the burning needs section, there's so many opportunities with our existing audiences that almost everybody, and I'd say just about everybody, is not fully taking advantage of, that we should absolutely be starting there. I'm glad, Nicole, thank you.
So we've got one more question, or another question coming here around kind of they're kind of asking like people finding you as a winery. Like, you know, we've got a lot of small and medium wineries on here. Obviously that online space is really dominated by the kind of the big three. So what can they be doing? And again, kind of maybe referencing Leanne's question around being lower cost, like what else can they be doing there to help? I understand what you're saying about finding existing audiences, but then helping people find them.
Sure. Yeah, I think the other thing that I would be thinking of, and this is as somebody who works a lot with destination marketing organizations, like a lot of the times we actually put in a lot of work to say, how do we get the local operators, like the wineries, actually tell us what we're doing? And so they'll spend money, like good money out there trying to get wineries to tell them what they're doing. So if there's people on this call who have things to introduce or they want to be found, your DMO is actively looking for that information. So, and sometimes they're not. And then that means that we just get to be annoying. And so what are the things that we would ask our DMO for? One, find a way to be on the first page of whatever their experiences are, like get higher in the rankings, and like give them a reason to do that. Be like, we had this really amazing experience, or here's the thing that we're doing. Maybe pair up, I mentioned local collaborations and guides, pair up with a couple of other interesting people in your area and go to the DMO and say, we have an idea for a blog post. You wouldn't believe how rare that is. And when it happens, it's an absolute gift for the social media manager or the writer at the DMO to hear from somebody that we sort of have a blog post packaged up and ready for you. Hell yeah, like they would all day long. And then the other thing would be to just give them content, whether it's photos or videos. So your DMO has access to a lot of other things. Your DMO also, I can say from personal experience, just about every DMO in BC, whether it's an RDMO or a CDMO, and I apologize if I'm speaking, you know, in a very industry terms, but if these are regional destination marketing organization or your community DMO, they almost all have campaigns coming up. And those campaigns might just be a video. Make sure you're in that video. It might be a contest or a giveaway or a content series. They probably haven't told you about it yet, but I promise you they've got something, whether it's your CDMO or your RDMO. So like, be annoying, be friendly, be annoying, and make sure that you're at the top of their list for what's coming up right now. Hugh said, your earlier comments about people who are not big social media / web users are now forced into it. Any tips on creating content for the newbies? Great question, Hugh. Yes. Make sure whatever you're creating is super legible, because some of these newbies or these late adopters may be using iPads, might not be able to read super small type. Make sure that we're putting text over videos. If we're putting videos out there, make sure that we're just keeping things really simple. If it seems like maybe this is a little basic or maybe this is a little obvious, well, remember, a lot of these audience haven't seen this. They don't know that this is a somewhat cliche or somewhat done. Well, don't be afraid of putting that content out into the world. And then to just generally go through your user experience, whether it's your website or your blog or your social media, and just like do it from the perspective of somebody having to pinch and zoom and like use their device for one of the first times ever, and go, is this easy? Are we like taking them by the hand and guiding them through this process? And because it's really easy, and I'm not sure if anybody's had this experience, but you try to make a video or make a website and make a blog post and try to make it so cool that it ends up being hard to use, or it ends up being not intuitive. So I would just revisit those things, or if we're planning things or building things, and say like, are we prioritizing cool over usability? Because now's the time to be focusing on usability. Yeah, and yes, yeah, and cool versus usability could absolutely be a post of its own, or could be its own webinar. And it's also like a bit of a crusade of mine. I'm just like, we've tried so hard to create things that are so beautiful or cool that we forget that a website, or really any web property, is a tool first, and it's, it needs to be beautiful or cool second. How long do you see the newbie factor lasting? Oh, that's a great question. Something I haven't really considered before. I mean, I guess the answer to that is until newbies have started to feel like digital natives. And I think that's a question I don't have an easy answer to. And maybe I'll pose that back to you, Hugh, and say, like, how long do you think it takes for somebody to go from feeling out of place and feeling awkward on digital and social, to feeling comfortable, and feeling like they are typical or comfortable social media user. And I'd be curious to know if there's any data on that. But I know, let's overly simplify it here and say 3 months, 6 months. The crystal ball is always cloudy.
Is there anything in kind of in that vein you'd recommend in terms of something someone can do to kind of accelerate that process, other than doing it?
You mean as an individual, how we can accelerate our own,
no, or if you're heading it up for a winery or individual, either or, but you're, like Hugh's talking about, you feel like a little bit of a newbie. Obviously, just doing it, experimenting, playing around with it is important. But are there any other resources? Is there any other person or anything you could point to say this will help you speed up that process to uncloud that crystal ball?
And so I think there's, and I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but I think this is an interesting opportunity for people to think about. If we have e-commerce or we have online booking, it's like, are we training our users on how to use that? Or like, are we just assuming that they know what a hamburger menu is and what happens when something pops out, right? Like, is there an opportunity for us to put something onto our website or onto our web page, or even into our Instagram stories or something that says, welcome, this is how this works. And maybe we'd like have some fun with it. And we say, like, if you want to buy wine online, this is the 4-step process or 5-step process. Like, I think that would be an example of, it's okay to be maybe too basic. Because for the people who, are fairly comfortable, and, any of us, we're on the Zoom calls, we're probably more tech savvy than the audience we're talking about. They might go to a page and be like, okay, cool. I see it. I understand how to buy something online. But for other people, it's going to be super helpful, and they're not going to want to actually ask somebody because they're going to be embarrassed. So yeah, I think providing tutorials, providing 101s on how to use our digital properties.
Well, I guess Hughes was the last one. So why don't we kind of end there? I think, thank you so much, Connor. This was awesome. Obviously, we'll share that, share your info with everyone afterwards, as always. So the newsletter will go out on Monday, and we'll include some links from a bunch of Connor's content there as well. So this was really appreciate you taking the time, Connor. This was great.
Well, thanks for having me, Christopher. And I just think it's awesome that you're doing this for the industry. This is so valuable. And I'll, if you don't mind, I might come back and see what Charlie has to say. I think that one's going to be great.
Yeah, please. I think that'll be an interesting one. So kind of at this point, just for anyone, this is totally, for all you wineries on the call, this is totally up to you how you guys want to do it. But we thought it would be useful. If you guys want to kind of hop on and share either in the chat or just publicly how opening's been going, kind of successes or maybe issues you're happening while we got colleagues on here that can answer it, or if you've done something that's worked, that's helpful around health and safety, anything like that. So right now what I'll do is I'll just open up the floor, and anyone that wants to share on video or on chat, please go ahead. Yeah, Nicole is just, if you're not seeing it in the chat, she's just commenting that they've been open for 2 weeks by appointment and it's going well, but one of the challenges they're having is finding new people. And Crystal's just commented as well, just curious what reservation, and again, you can throw this in the chat or hop on here, but what reservation software are other wineries using and why did you choose it? I'll make a quick note on that just because we had it asked as well. If you have a WordPress site, there are actually some fairly simple, inexpensive reservation software you can use that has strong reviews. If you have questions about that, you can just message me and I'm happy to connect you guys with that. But yeah, what else are people using and having success with in terms of reservation software? Nicole's just saying they've been using Acuity Scheduling, which is a service that provides that. And Katie from Kitch is saying youcanbook.me had good success, very well priced, and they've had good success with that. So yeah, so the two comments are just Acuity and youcanbook.me. And I don't know if anyone has any comments to Nicole's other question about hiring. Chrissy mentioned Yocal. Yeah, and just for interest, I actually built the Yocal website. So if you go to Yocal, that was me. Yeah, so, and just, Yocal is a similar company to Acuity, which Nicole mentioned. They're kind of in the same space in terms of scheduling. Yeah, Katie in the chat has a question around wineries doing tasting fees and if anyone has moved towards tastings being non-refundable. And Hugh has a comment there as well. Another option in terms of scheduling is Commerce 7 as a reservation module, and several wineries are using it and are pretty happy with it. And then Crystal has a question for those who are open, how has the traffic flow been? I'll make a quick comment on that. I know a few wineries I've talked to have been, I think 3 of them I chatted with have been quite busy, and was talking with Pentage, for example. I think their last Sunday was their busiest Sunday on that date, at least in the last 10 years. So that's them. But who else? How's your guys' traffic been? Nicole just commented that their Little Engine, their fees are refundable with purchase of $10 and $20, and they're very reservation focused. Katie has a really, over at Kitch, they've had about 50% being pre-booked in terms of traffic and 50% being walk-in. That traffic is down compared to last year, but the interesting thing they're noticing is guests are looking to stay longer and have a longer, more drawn-out experience. People are less inclined to winery hop, which makes a lot of sense, and they'd rather stay at one place, have an experience there, and they're finding their guest spending seems to be higher as well. Yeah, so we're just heads up, we're getting close to 4:30, so we'll wrap formally at 4:30. So yeah, if you have any other comments or questions, for how things are going for you guys, please just, feel free to share right now. Hugh's just commenting that most of the Naramata bench wineries are crediting tasting fees against purchase, and some are now charging tasting fees on the way in prior to tasting or online when booking. You're welcome, Nicole. So Chrissy has a question around, are most of you doing more in-depth tastings or keeping it status quo, as in sitting down? Yeah, Nicole's commenting that they've been focused on sit down for a couple of years. Yeah, Crystal just commented they're planning for 20 to 30-minute tastings by reservation. That's a bit more in depth, but it's not drastically so. And Hugh's saying that many wineries on the bench have moved to a more in-depth, longer tasting. And sit down is just purely dependent on the space they have available. Yeah, and Katie's saying they've moved to, interestingly, to tiered tastings. from the standard 20-minute tasting to elevated tastings that go from 40 to 60 minutes. And they've also moved to non-refundable tasting fees. Walk-ins are charged prior to the tasting and at the host stand, or prior to the tasting at the host stand. I'd be curious, Katie, too, if you've had any negative pushback with non-refundable tasting fees, or if everyone's happy with that. And, yeah, again, thank you for the thanks. Happy to put this together. Yeah, so I think, and again, feel free to still throw in the chat at the last minute here as I do the wrap up. Thanks everyone, as always, for attending, and really appreciate everyone kind of coming together to share a little bit. We'll put some of this in our newsletter as well, just some of the questions and maybe some of the responses, just to share with people, letting them know kind of what's happening. If you have any other further questions for us or anything you'd like to even include in there, or, if you have a little bit of a story, because again, we'll put that out to all the other wineries, that a success or a question you'd like to kind of share as part of the dialogue around opening and figuring this all out, please just message me, Chris at vitality.ca, and we'll make sure to include that. And one quick thing I'm just going to throw out there for my actual company, we're looking at adding some technology around vigor mapping from a ground-based sensor rather than using a drone. But the one thing we're trying to figure out is if there's actually interest in kind of doing regular vigor mapping of your vineyard. So if that is something you're just curious about, shoot me a message. Happy to chat about that and go from there. But other than that, reminder, we've got Paul next week and then Charlie in 2 weeks. Those links are up. You can register. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day.